A lot of practice owners say they can't afford a great hire. The truth really is you can't afford a bad one. There are two prices that you pay when you hire: the price of talent or the price of stupidity. One of these shows up on your P&L, your profit and loss statement, and the other one kind of hides in your production report, and it's a little bit harder to find. And you may not understand the true effect of what the impact of a bad hire has made. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Bistolfi, CEO of KickStart Dental Marketing, and welcome to the No BS Dental Growth Podcast. You know, a lot of practice owners say they can't afford a great hire. The truth really is you can't afford a bad one. There are two prices that you pay when you hire: the price of talent, higher salary, better benefits, actual recruiting effort, or the price of stupidity, which is turnover, patient loss, retraining, chaos, and recycle that again every few months or a year or so. What's interesting about these is that one of these shows up on your P&L, your profit and loss statement, and the other one kind of hides in your production report, and it's a little bit harder to find, right? And you may not understand the true effect of what the impact of a bad hire has made. Now, for me personally, I've owned KickStart Dental Marketing this is our 17th year in business. And I truly believe that hiring the right people, like really A-level talent, is probably the hardest thing for me to do, at least in business. There's a lot of difficulties that we're going to get into in this episode. Everybody looks great on paper, right? Or most everybody does pretty decent in an interview these days. But you don't really know until you know. And that's the thing. And now I'm going to start talking some things about that I learned in my career that has helped me. And really, I hope by the end of this episode, you're going to know really exactly what a bad hire actually costs a dental practice in dollars, because it can be overwhelming. And I have seen this almost single-handedly break dental practices before. They just go through this constant cycle of rinse and repeat. You know, bring in a front desk person, train them for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it might be, depending on their level of experience. And then they cycle out for, $2 more an hour down the street, or, they go back to school or something like that. And a lot of the times when these people leave like that, they're not leaving because of pay specifically or, whatever it might be. They leave because, sometimes dentists can be too stingy, like not offering the right benefits for a good quality person. They also can leave because of bad leadership, right? You can't just throw them in a chair and expect them to do things the exact way that you want it done with very little training. So those are the types of things that we're going to talk about in this episode. Let's talk about the front desk first, because one bad receptionist just really doesn't answer phones poorly, do they? They leak new patients. So let's put a scenario in place here. If your practice, say, gets 80 new patient calls a month, and a bad front desk converts 40% instead of 75%, that's about 28 lost patients a month. Let's say it's $800 to $1,200 lifetime value. And by the way, that is incredibly conservative. It's probably 2, 4, 5 times more than that. But even at that number, it's $20,000 to $30,000 a month in what I like to call invisible loss if you don't really track things well. You want to put things into real numbers? That's about as conservative as it'll get. A hygienist, a little bit more rare in terms of bad hygienists, but they definitely exist. I'm sure some of you right now are kind of rolling your eyes going, oh yeah, they're out there, right? But, a disengaged hygienist who doesn't co-diagnose tanks treatment acceptance, they're not just cleaning teeth anymore. They're one of your biggest, if not the biggest, case acceptance drivers. And if these folks are disengaged because of the money that they want to make or something else, that's a problem for you. And hygienists right now are not cheap. I think everybody knows that, at least at the time of taping this episode, right? They're hard to find. They're very expensive. They're demanding the moon, and they got a little bit of an ego right now. So you do have to take care of them if hygiene is important to your practice. And I think for most of you, it probably is. So what about a bad associate? They're out there too. So a bad associate who churns patients or underproduces doesn't just cost in their salary. I mean, they damage your overall reputation you spent years building. Most of these associates just want to make it to the point to where they can start their own practice, right? So they might just try to get your patients. A damaged reputation can take years, if ever, to get over with. So you got to be really careful with those as well. And it's harder to put specific numbers to that, right? So I think you've got to be really careful in this, and, associate can be the same way. There's a hidden multiplier here as well. Bad hires don't just underinform, they can be toxic, right? They can drag down your current A players around them, right? You've probably seen this. Your best people can leave because they're tired of just carrying dead weight sometimes. And there's people, this happened to me years ago. Some people are just built to not want to cause trouble, and so they won't say anything to you about any dead weight in there or toxic relationships. And you may not know it. And then all of a sudden, you've got, one or two of your A players leave, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Then you find out exactly why. There's a toxic person on the staff. The cost of that is even worse now because it's multiplied, because not only do you have to get rid of the toxic person that's underperforming, but now you've got to replace your A player. And the A player is way harder to find than just another dead weight person. I'm going to tell you something a little controversial. You may not like, but that's okay. In my years of doing this, I've found that dental practice owners are more guilty of cheap out hiring than others. And I don't know what's causing that. I'm not sure if it's like in school, they tell you do everything as cheap as you possibly can when you start a practice. I've heard I can't pay $5 more an hour, but think about it. All right, let's say you can't pay that person $5 more an hour, but you're okay with spending the $15,000 it's going to cost to replace that person in 6 months or even more. You guys don't always think that way. And I get it. I mean, you're dentists and you want to do dentistry, and that's what your mind's focused on. And sometimes it's not about understanding all the intricacies of hiring and wages and HR and all that fun stuff. But these are things that you absolutely have to be able to think about. I think you guys think a lot in terms of cost instead of return. And I see this in marketing too. They don't want to spend the extra $1,000 a month for marketing. That's going to bring them back $15,000 a month in actual collections. They see marketing, they see hiring, they see these things as fixed costs like the electric bill or something. But in reality, these things should not be costing you anything. These things are true investments that should be bringing you money back in by multiples of what you're spending. So a front desk person is not a $40,000 expense. They're a $40,000 investment that should return $300,000 or more in scheduled production. That's where you got to get your mind to. And it's hard to do. I made these mistakes too, and I'm not a dentist. And I'm not saying it's just dentists that do this. Don't think that. But I do see a lot of it. It's a gear shift, but I can tell you that the practices that we work with that grow, they bring on another location, they bring on associates, they expand, whatever they want to do in terms of growing, these are the people that think like this. They're not, trying to save $500 here to save $500. They're thinking about it and more in terms of not what happens this month or next month, but what happens in 6 months from now or a year from now or 5 years from now. That's a huge difference. Here's one of the reasons this happens, or why you typically will find bad people sometimes. I call it the Indeed trap. I still post on Indeed. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but what a lot of you will do in the hiring on your own is you will go out to Indeed and you'll post a generic ad. You will find somebody else's post, typically on Indeed, and you'll copy that. Or you'll put it into AI and have it kind of rewrite it a little bit. By the way, the latter is the better solution there. Then you kind of look for the least bad resume. Do you ever feel like, I guess, if you're hiring in desperation after somebody quits with no notice, that's not recruiting, by the way. That's gambling and that's hoping. And those are not great business tactics. A lot of this goes through contingency planning, right? You should have a plan of, okay, if this person leaves, this is what I do in the first hour that I know that they're leaving. You need to have plans in place. Like, all right, if I lost 20% of my new patient base tomorrow, right, because Google changed a rule or whatever, if I lose 20% of my new patients a month or 50% new patients a month, this is what we do. Right? Number one, we lay off this person. Number two, we cut this. And number three, we do that. You need to have these types of contingency plans in place, kind of playbooks, if you will. A lot of dental practice owners, and especially the new ones, don't budget for talent. They budget for more of a body in a chair. They know kind of what their buddy down the street, what he pays his front desk person. That kind of mindset can be the root of the problem, because then if they do find an A player and he or she is like, I want $7 more an hour than what you had in your mind, you're like, oh, they're just trying to rob me. I can't do that, right? because you've already kind of got it built in that this other person's paying this, so I shouldn't have to pay any more than that. So let's talk about what paying for talent actually looks like. I always tell people pay above market. Find out what your market price is. You can do that. Just search on Indeed and it'll even tell you sometimes the averages. I mean, not 10% more, but enough that your people never look at job boards. The delta between average and great pay is very tiny compared to the delta in output, right? Let me say that again. The delta, the difference between average and great pay is tiny compared to the delta in output. That's where your mind has to be. Make it such a great place to work, not just for the pay, but other things as well. The culture, anything that you can offer that's, a little bit different, causes them a little bit less stress, is going to be a huge bonus for you. And if you can recruit before you need to, the best hire is someone who wasn't even looking, or they've got a job now. I call it network poaching ethically, right? So poach ethically. Always be looking for talent, because if you can get ahead of that game, it could be a killer. Invest in onboarding. Most dental offices that I see train by throwing someone into a fire for a week. Oh, if they can handle that, they're good. But real onboarding is 30 to 90 days with clear milestones, clear key performance indicators. Give them a plan, hand them a playbook and say, all right, this is how you do your job. Let's start here. This is what we expect out of you on day 30, day 60, day 90. If you do these things, we're great. If you don't, this is a trial period, and we will replace you. I think it's really important to create an environment that A, players don't want to leave. They like that structure, the clear expectations. Give them recognition early and often. Give them growth paths, and absolutely no tolerance for toxicity. No negative attitudes. No, we can't do this type attitudes. That will kill a dental practice. Bonus plans are great. Put a goal out there. All right, this quarter we want this many new patients. This quarter we want this much profit. How do we do that? We do it with people. And those people need to feel like they're part of something bigger. So bonus plans can work great. You don't have to be giving away $50,000, $60,000 here. I'm talking about relatively small things on top of what they're already making. Here's an example that I think will kind of strike everybody. The practice that pays their front desk, for instance, $55,000 or more and invests in phone training versus the one cycling through $38,000 hires every 8 months. Who do you think wins long term? Well, I hope you're thinking the $55,000 person because that's who's going to win in this situation. It's just the way it works. And even if you were to get an A player that happens to be desperate and takes on that $38,000 role, they're not staying long because you know what they're doing? They're taking your job until they can find one that pays better. That's going to cause some of this problems in terms of cycling through people. So let's talk about the uncomfortable truth. If you're constantly dealing with people problems, you are the problem. All right? Not because you're a bad person. Don't think that. That's not what I'm saying. But because you have a bad hiring system. But I can't find good people really means more about I'm not willing to pay for, recruit, or develop good people. Okay, that's another thing to think about. Here's one other. The dentist doing $2 million a year with 3 great team members versus the dentist doing $1.2 million with 7 mediocre ones. Fewer, better people always, because the better people can take more on. They want to take more on. They come to work kicking and screaming and knocking the door open. Maybe that's a little extreme, but you kind of get what I mean. So I hope this has helped. This at least starts to get you thinking a little bit about hiring and why it's okay to spend a little bit extra. You can do it. I promise you. And it will reward you long term. I want you to audit your team honestly. I want you to grade them. Who's an A player? I mean, maybe not publicly. Who's just a seat filler? We here at KickStart, we call it a wrong person, right seat. And we follow EOS, that, if you guys have ever heard of that, entrepreneurial operating system. Dentists can run this too. You can look it up. But identify these people and then think about, all right, well, what would happen if my best person quit tomorrow? What would I do? And document what you would do, because that'll help. The price of talent is a known predictable cost, but the price of stupidity is an unknown, compounding cost. So kind of pick your price there, right? Stop trying to save your way to a great team. It just doesn't work that way. You just got to invest your way there. Get the good people. Spend a little extra. Offer that extra benefit. It'll go a long way. All right. If you like this episode, please share it with somebody you know. If you think maybe they're having a hiring problem as well, we would love to spread our knowledge, of course. And if you do like the episode, please like it. Pretty please. Even leave a review, only if it's good. Just kidding. You can leave whatever review you want. And if you need help, we don't do a whole lot of talent scouting here, but we can definitely point you in the right direction if you need some help with all of this. Go to our website, kickstartdental.com. There's a get your free 90-day roadmap button all over our website. Click that. You can schedule a time with me online, absolutely free, and I'd be more than happy to take you through some of this and talk to you about some real examples of how some of our best clients, our most productive clients, are just absolutely killing it with hiring. So anyway, appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Dental Marketing Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, www.kickstartdental.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you are ready to grow your practice, then you might want to schedule a free strategy session with us. Just go to kickstartdental.com and click the free strategy session button and give us 15 minutes of your time to change your practice forever. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. And thanks for listening to the Dental Marketing Podcast by KickStart Dental Marketing, where dentists go to win online.